Feedback. Okay, let's go. Okay. This stream is basically, today I am doing this stream just to get started, get people started with using Arch Linux. Arch Linux, if you are not aware of what Arch Linux is, it is an Linux distribution. Linux is a kernel, and if you put some interfaces on top of it, it becomes an operating system. It is quite different from Windows and even other Linux distributions that you might be familiar with, like if you have heard of Ubuntu, Fedora, and OpenSUSE. So this is really different from those kinds of distributions, even as it follows a rolling release model. Rolling release means that whenever one of the packages that you are using in your system gets an update, it gets the latest and the greatest version automatically. So this is not the only one that is there in the market. Arch Linux is just one of the various rolling release distributions there. There is an OpenSUSE Leap version, and you have options regarding that. Even Fedora has a rolling release distribution that it offers. So why Arch? Arch is considered stereotypically to be a meme operating system because the users of Arch are seen using the phrase, by the way, I use Arch every time, and bugging users of other operating system to constantly move over to Arch Linux. And that can be annoying for some, but I don't consider that to be an issue because everyone has their preferences and everyone is free to choose, because in Linux and in open source in general, you have various different options. So there is a possibility right there also. So to first get started with Arch, we have to first go through its installation document. Arch is known for its wiki, that is the documentation there is. Let me first see if there are people in the stream or not. YouTube might be glitching out again, but yeah, okay, whatever. Let's continue. Let us go to the wiki and the installation guide to get started. So as you can see, let me zoom in a bit. This document is a guide for installing Arch Linux, and it is definitely recommended you read the manual and the documents before going with it, because the installation, the only thing that deters people from using Arch Linux on all of their computers or PCs and desktops and laptops even, is that the installation process itself is a little bit involved. There are some workarounds that I will also be covering towards the end of the stream, but basically you have an involved experience of installing the operating system up from scratch and building whatever you need into it. And this has an extreme flexibility, so that great power also comes with great responsibility thing also fits right here, because you are in charge of building all your system from up from scratch, and no one is going to actually help you or walk you through it. So that is why this document exists, and it is typically the most referred to documentation even in the entire Linux community, because even if you are using OpenSUSE, Fedora, or Ubuntu, you will find yourself coming back to the Arch wiki. So let's go through the installation guide again. So first, for pre-installation, we have to acquire an installation image. So this is an disk image, or we had a DVD ROMs back in the day to install operating systems from, but now we can do it with an installation image. And in realistically, you would flash it to a USB drive or a DVD or anything. In this stream, I will be using a virtual machine and just using the image to just run through the install. So for install acquiring the installation image, we have to go to the download page, and in download page we have a BitTorrent link. So I will open my torrent client, that will be qBittorrent. I tried a bit before this, but whatever. Let me copy the magnet link and paste it here, so I will be able to download it. It is around 682 megs as of December 2020. Yes. So I will click OK. Keep dropping hints on chat that someone is watching this stream, at least I get to know. But whatever. Let's wait for the Arch Linux ISO to complete its downloading. Arch Linux only supports 64-bit from a couple of years now. 32-bit is not supported. So if you are running an older system, you might want to keep that in mind. It is very lightweight and does not need a lot of space, because it is being built up from scratch. So you have the option of setting everything, literally everything. So the download is almost complete. Let me look at the stream chat also so that I don't miss out. Okay, we have some viewers. So it is now seeding. So seeding means that it is complete and it is now uploading it to other torrent users. So I will pause it and I can see that it has completed. So I will quit out of qBittorrent and go back to the installation guide. We can skip this verify signature step, but it is recommended you do it if you are doing it in production. Why am I skipping this? Because I know that I have downloaded it from the Arch Linux website itself. If you have gotten the image from somewhere else, you might look into just going through that. Then we have to prepare an installation medium. As I said, you can use a pen drive or an optical disk, DVD ROM, whatever, but we will not be doing that also. Then we have to boot the live environment, and in case you are using also using Windows on your computer, you need to disable secure boot. And you can refer the wiki again for how to do that and all, but I am skipping through all of that. I will first get a virtual machine started that will run the installer. So I am using the KVM virtualization hypervisor because it is native and my computer supports that. So I am now quitting out of that terminal, and this is the virtual machine manager that I have. I will create a new virtual machine with a local installation media because I have the installation image that it wants. Then I will select that I want to use this ISO 682 megs. Okay, I will choose that volume. It could not detect the operating system, but whatever, we will select Arch Linux, that we are using Arch Linux in this virtual machine. Then I have 32 gigs in my host machine, so I can give it 4 GB worth of RAM, and I will give it 4 CPUs. I am running a 8 core CPU with hyperthreading, so I can give 4. Then I 20 gigs is fine for the storage. It will be a virtual disk, so it will occupy some space on your physical disk as well, but this is actually virtual, so it will be just an image file again. Then I have to customize some configuration before I install it. Network is NAT is okay. So, and our machine is named Arch Linux. Looks fine to me. And then I will select UEFI mode because there are motherboards which support older motherboards typically support BIOS or even a compatibility support module, that is the CSM mode. But newer systems have UEFI pre-built into it. You don't have to do anything. I am just doing this because I am running it on a virtual machine. So then we can see, yeah, I can apply this changes. CPUs, 4 CPUs, 4 gigs of memory, everything looks good to me. I will begin the installation. Yeah, so now I have this screen. It says arch install medium, arch linux install medium. x86 underscore 64 means the AMD processor, and UEFI, that is the firmware that we are using. It will boot automatically. I typically don't like to type inside of a virtual machine because then I cannot copy between the host and the guest. So I will start an SSH server as soon as we get to a terminal, and we got into the terminal. This is the Arch Linux installer. uh, if you are on a real machine, you will have this screen again, and you will just have this command prompt or shell or slash prompt, whatever you are wherever you're coming from. And this is the entire installation medium, and we have to build on top of this. So we will just go inside it, and we have to first set up the root password because I will be remoting into this virtual machine. So I am setting the root password. I will type in a super secure password. Okay. Then we will start the open SSH server. That will be systemctl start sshd. Now that is running, and now I need to now get the IP address of this virtual machine, which will be 192.168.122.236. And I can fire up a terminal here, and I will zoom in a bit. I will SSH into it. As you can see, I have been experimenting quite a bit. Now it is asking that whether I am sure I want to connect to this machine. I will say yes. Now it is prompting me for the password. So I will put in the password. Again, we got to the same prompt that we got, but here I have the flexibility of copying things and just changing things, because if we were to install do it on the installation virtual machine itself, it would be a little bit longer stream. Whatever, let's go through the installation guide again. Now my the default key map, that is the default keyboard, is selected as English United States again. So that is fine for me because I am using a US keyboard, and that does not apply to me. But if you are using a keyboard that is different, like Middle Eastern or any Asian languages that you might have, then you might look into that, because there might be some key maps. Let's look at what is there inside it. ls, and if I can type correctly, so there are these things, and let's say there is an i386 thing and QWERTY. There are various different key maps, keyboard layouts, but we won't be using any of that. Then if you have a different key layout other than English United States, you have to load those keys. I am skipping that because I am fine with United States. Then we have to verify the boot mode. As I just set up earlier, that there was a BIOS mode and an UEFI mode. So I have to verify that I am in UEFI mode. So I will just copy this command, and all of these commands can be found in the installation guide, and that is linked in the description itself. So I can see that there are some things here. So I am So it is showing the directory without error, so that then the system is booted in UEFI mode. That is guaranteed. Then I have to connect to the internet. So is my network interface card, NIC card, up? I can just see that. Yes, both of them are up. This is a loopback device, and this is our Ethernet slash. If this was a Wi-Fi setup, also you would have the Wi-Fi card showing up here. Then you have to enable dhcp and all, but that is enabled in the installation medium itself. If you After installation, we have to set it up by ourselves, and then if you have a static IP address, you would also have to follow some other instructions. Then we can verify that we have an internet connection by just pinging the Arch Linux server. So yes, okay. Can I ping Google? Okay, fine. Looks good to me. Now we have to just see what is our date. Date looks good, but still we have to set it up to use NTP so that it can update itself whenever the system boots up. So okay, that also looks good. So with that, I just set up the time and date of the computer to grab it from the network itself, from internet. Just set up your date and time zone automatically. Time zone is actually not set, but the date is set and time is set. The time zone defaults to UTC because the systems are designed to be universal. Next, we have to check the service status, that the time date controller is working. Yes. So as you can see that the system clock is now synchronized and the time zone is plus UTC. Then we have to partition the disk, that is we have to set up our hard disk and install. We have to decide which hard disk we want to install our operating system on. So for that, we have to first, you can use a couple of different options here. There is F disk, there is also CF disk. uh, Let me quit out of that. There is the G disk and even CG disk, if I am not wrong. Okay, yeah, that works, but it needs another option. I will be using F disk for this video. So F disk, if I can type, yes, F disk shows that there are two disks or two block devices. One is a loopback device, none of our concern, but there is a virtual disk because this is a virtual machine. In a real disk, this would be SDA or SDB, something like that. If you have an NVMe storage, like I do have in my actual host machine, you would see something like this. If I can write correctly again, of course, permission denied. So as you can see that there it is NVMe. So if it is an SSD, it could M.2 SSD, it could be NVMe. If my stream did not lag out right now, does not matter. Then we will go to the next step. We have to now partition the disk, and it is also showing that results that are ending in ROM, loop, and ARroot may be ignored. So we have ignored the loopback device. We are in UEFI mode, so we will have a GUID partition table, that is the GPT partition table. And then again, we will have to create all these different partitions and set up the correct partition types. So let's do that now. uh, I don't know what is happening with my stream right now, but whatever. No, I don't want to see all the possibilities. So fdisk VDA, let me go down to the help. I would like to create a new GPT partition table. Yes, that is okay. Then I need to create a new partition, as it says that press N to create a new partition. This is the first partition. What did it say? It we require at least 260 megabytes. So that would be 500. Let's go with 512 plus 512 megabytes. No, first sector. Okay, last sector is plus 512 M. The partition type is Linux file system, but we need an EFI system partition. We will take care of it in some time. We are creating another partition. It says we have to have a swap partition. Okay, we have given it 4 gigs of RAM, so 4 gigs of swap should be enough. I don't recommend it should be greater. It should be almost double of your actual physical RAM, but okay. First sector is okay, and I am giving it 4096 gigs. No, plus 4G. Sorry. Yes. Then we have to create another partition which will take up the entire remainder of the device. Yes. So now let us see the partition table that we have now 512 megabyte. The first partition, second partition is a 4 GB partition, and the third is a 15.5 gig partition. And all of them are Linux file system, but we have to fix that because we need different partition types. So on the first partition, we have to go with an EFI system. So I will change it to EFI system, and for the second I have to go with Linux swap, that is 19. Just press M for help to view the help thing, uh, to know the commands and all the keystrokes. And if I press P again now, so I have Linux swap on the 4 gig partition and EFI system on the 512 megabyte. So that looks good. Let's write it to disk. So that was done. So okay, then we have to make the file system. We have to bootstrap the file, that is the file system that we are working with. This was just disk partitioning. We have to now install the file system. Windows, if you remember, comes with NTFS, that is the Windows NT file system, and there was also a file allocation table. Fat file system was also there, quite around a bit. So we have to, because we will be booting from our first partition, that is the EFI system, because UEFI and BIOS are all boot related. So we have to first make the first partition as the boot partition. So that will be fat 32 with this command, make fs.bfat fat32 and dev vda1, the first partition. That succeeded. Then we have to make swap. What was the command? Devs and swap partition. So let's go dev slash vda2. Setting up swap space is done. Then we have to create the Linux. Supports many different, you have options everywhere in Arch. As I said, you can use the butterfs file system, you can use zfs for backups and all, and then you can also use zfs was for raid, and butterfs for backups, and ext3 file system is also there, ext2 was also there. Now we have ext4 for quite some time, so I will go with the ext4 file system on dev slash vda3. So the file system accounting information has been written to disk. Then we have to mount it. We have to mount the root volume first. So that would be, our root volume is vda3 at mnt, and we have to create a new directory inside that to just mount our boot directory, the EFI partition. So I will create a new directory, mkdir nekdir boot, and then I will mount my first partition inside that. So that is done, and I need to swap on. We have to turn the swap on thing slash dev slash sd sorry vda2. Once that is done, we have to generate the file system table, uh, but that would be done later. First we have to install our system. So I will uh, we can also check our mirror list. What is the mirror list? If I can just see that, this is the mirror list. These are the servers that we will be searching if there is an update or something like that. So if you have some internet connectivity issues, then you can use another package called reflector, and it would rank all the servers, and such that if you are closest to one server, that then it would be selecting that by default. So that flexibility is also there. I will just copy this command to install all the essential packages. Now it says the Linux kernel is actually separate from the operating system, and you can use various different kernels with this, like Linux dash LTS or Linux dash Zen or anything like that. I will be using the defaults. I am pasting that, and I also need packstrap, so that is okay. But I need some more packages like the Vim command line editor, or even Nano you can choose. So what this will do is download all these packages, and this will take some time, but it will download all these packages and install it to the new file system that we just created, that was in the virtual disk on the virtual machine. So if you are doing this on a real machine, it will be now downloading and installing all the packages and the system to the hard disk or SSD, whatever you might have. So right now it is downloading the kernel, the Linux 5.9.13 kernel, the Linux firmware. And while this is going on, let me take a quick look at the chat if there is something. Okay, whatever. Let's go on. While it is still downloading, it is now installing everything. Now we have to create an fstab file. What is an fstab file, you might ask? That it is the file system, the table that the Linux kernel will use while automatically using all the partitions and all. Hi Tanu, you are here in the chat. What did you send? Okay, a face palm. Does not matter. Okay, now we will generate the file system table. So that is finished. After that we have to create the file system table. Then I will create now we have to go into what did we just create. Let's just hold back and just see what did we create. We created this file. It is showing that VDA3 is our root partition, and VDA1 is our slash boot partition, VFAT, and VDA2 is our swap partition. It is just, this is the file system information that it is just storing. Then we have to now go into the new system that we just installed. So we are leaving the installation medium. The installation is basically done. We have to now configure it for our use. So now I am going into dash slash mnt. Now you notice that the prompt has changed from the red, the root was in red, now it is in white, and even the prompt has changed. So that signals something that we are not in the installer. Next we have to set up our time zone. So for that, what time zones are available, we have to first see that. So we can do that by going to ls, and by typing ls, the ls command, to list all the subfolders and files. And as you can see, there are a few options here. I would have to go to Asia, and you have all these cities right here. So I am in India, so the time zone, the Linux time zone for me would be Asia slash Kolkata, even if the capital is Delhi. But because the time zone is corresponds to Kolkata, so I would have to use Asia slash Kolkata. So I would grab this command ln to create a symbolic link to slash etc slash local time, so our time would be set correctly. Now I would have to update my hardware clock. Hardware clock just means the battery, the CMOS battery, the clock keeps running even if the system is off. So that is that. So as you can see, my date is now set correctly. I am in the India standard time zone, and this is the correct date and time. So that is done. I would also again system not system ctl, time date ctl, set ntp true, because we did that in the installer. So we would do that again. Now that is done. We have our date correctly. Let us see if we have internet. Ping google.com. It is working right now, but it will fail once we reboot. So for that we have to install the dhcp package, the dhcp daemon that will just set up the network configuration for us if our router uses dhcp. If it was a static ip, you would have to do that manually, but dhcp is used by most consumer grade routers, so I am installing that using pacman, which is the package manager. Then I have to enable it on every boot, that is enable dash dash now dhcp cd. So that is fine. Now I have to set up my language, so I have to edit this file. So for editing I will fire up vim, and I would scroll down to en underscore in. So if I go to en underscore in, I uncommented that and save that. So that is done. I have to now run local generator to generate all the locales. So en underscore in English India is complete, generation is complete. I would have to go to locale.conf again. That is another file. So we have to set up the language variable there. So they are using en underscore us. I would use en underscore in dot utf. It was not there. So then I have to set the keyboard layout, but the keyboard layout is fine for me because I am using an US keyboard. Next I have to create we have to change the host name file. This is the name of the computer. If you are coming from Windows, the computer's name, uh, how it is identified on the network and all. So this is our host name. Let's keep it arch linux. Then we have to change the hosts file also, so that if you type localhost or something like that, 127.0.0.1, that should work as a loopback. So for that we have to set it up manually. As you can see, it is definitely a more involved operating system installation. So for that I have to paste this information into this file and change the my hostname bit to arch linux. And I don't need this part d3w to delete those, and I would quit out of that. Then creating a new initial ram file system is not required. So how works is that there would be an initial ram disk that would be loaded, and that will hand over the control to the linux kernel once the system is starting to boot up. So that we can skip because we did not do anything with lvm or system encryption or raid, but you can look into that as well. We have to set up the root password again, so let's keep it secret. So that is done. Then don't skip this part. We have to install a bootloader, otherwise our system will not boot. So keep that in mind. So let's see what bootloaders we have. We have EFI stub, Clover, Grub. Even you can see that Grub has the most yeses in its row. So I will select Grub. It is the Grand Unified Bootloader. So for MBR specific instructions, we have to just install the Grub package first, and EFI, no, we are using EFI, yes, UFI systems. So we have to install those two packages, Grub and EFI Boot Manager. So let's go to our newly installed system. We will go to Package Manager dash S Grub and EFI Boot Manager. Okay. If you have other operating systems, you might also need to install OS under OS dash prober, which is this thing right here. So now we will have to install the bootloader to our system. So for that, the target is the 64-bit EFI system. The EFI directory is dash is slash boot, and the bootloader ID is grub. Everything looks fine to me. So it is now installing. So installation finished. No error reported. Good so far. Then we have to generate the main configuration file, that is the grub make config. That is done. Looks good to me. Looks good to me. And that is all we need to do. And then if you have an Intel or AMD CPU, you would also have to install two packages, that is the AMD Ucode package or the Intel microcode package. Just install it, and then you just have to generate the grub configuration again. And if you are if you are doing this on your own, then you would have to append this all this to the grub configuration file also, but we would not have to do that because we are in a virtual machine again. So the thing is done. So we have to now exit the chroot environment. So I will press Ctrl D to get out of that. We are now in the installer again. Now we will optionally unmount all the partitions. So all the partitions are unmounted. Now we will do a reboot, and let's see what happens. But first let us see that our virtual machine is working. Yes, it is working. And what is the boot option? So it is going from there. So I will just uh, increase the priority of the hard disk over the image installer image that we have, so that it does not boot again into the installer. So I will click apply, and then I will reboot. So while it is rebooting, the viewer was disconnected. It is fine. Let's shut it down from here as well. Guest is not running. Then let's start it up again. Yeah, so we are now in grub, and the installation was successful, and we got to the login screen. If you can see that, it would be great, but I don't know. I am making it full screen. So if that is visible, so I will log in as root. So I am now in Arch Linux. Let me see if I have internet. Yes, I do. So let me ping google.com. It is working. So now I need to set up graphics and all on this thing. So basically the installation is done, and we would now first let us just set up SSH on this thing so that I can copy and paste commands into this. Systemctl start SSHD. If that is installed, no, that is not installed. So pacman open SSH server. If that is to be found, otherwise we have to just install open SSH first, then run that command again. Yes, SSHD has been started. So let me quit out of this window and then just get back to the terminal that I was using. So IP-A. So the IP address is quite a bit different. So it is 237 now. So 237. I am again logging in. Permission denied. Did we set up the root password correctly? We don't know. So let's do that again using the passwd command. Root password is updated correctly. So it should now work. Why is it not? Okay, maybe it would take care on the next reboot, but let's just set up all these things there itself. Then it is not working. Things happen, don't worry. So next we go to the post installation steps to see the general recommendations. So we have to first, this we are logging in as a root, but that is insecure. We should create another user. So in order to create another user, you have to use the useradd command. So we would go to the users and groups uh, help menu and example adding a user. It is you adding a user like this. I would add myself as an user there, but I cannot copy and paste things right here. So I have to let me just make this full screen. Yes, so I have to do useradd -m and I will go with Sudipto. That is done. So, and I would set my password if I can see. So I set up my password correctly. Then what is the next thing that we have to do? That is okay. Fine. We have now set up the users and groups correctly. Let's take care of the sudo privileges so that we can execute things with super privileges, with administrative privileges. So vi sudo, of course sudo is not installed, so we would have to install sudo. Then go to vi sudo, no editor has been found, and we have not installed vi. So editor equals to vim, because we had installed vim, we can set it to that, and then do vi sudo. The sudo's file just allows us to just define who all can run the commands in administrative mode. So I am just allowing the wheel group to execute any command. So I will user mode and I am adding my user to another group. So how to do an user mode, because I already created the user earlier, but I just need to add this user to another group. So user groups, group management, uh, user mod dash ag additional groups, and then the username. So it would be like user mod dash ag wheel Sudipto. So that is done. Let me log in as Sudipto now. So I am now logging in as Sudipto. So that should be done. Is it working correctly? I have my reservations on that. So we have bricked our machine. Why did we do that? Now we have to go back into our installation media again. I hope this did not happen, but I guess this is regarding the keyboard layout itself. We have to see that. But a good thing about this is that we can just apply these changes and get back to it without any problem. So I am just rebooting my entire virtual machine and going back to the installer. No, I don't want that. Obviously I don't want that. I will not be able to reboot into that. Let me press del, or how to do it in Tiano Core. Again, I am not able to do that, and I am officially out of track at this point, but does not matter. Let us go back into Linux. The problem is with the password. For some reason the login is incorrect, but let's investigate what is happening. I am turning off the virtual disk, so let's reboot again. So what is happening? It again went. So yeah, I unchecked the wrong thing right here. I have to just enable SATA. I am shutting down the system. Only SATA should be bootable. Yes, it is now going back to the installer. Something went wrong and we are out of track again. Does not matter. I am shutting down the system once again. This is why this is quite a bit involved. Shut down, force off. Yeah, I force turned it off, and then I am going back to my machine and starting it up. We are now in the UFI. Why are we in the UFI? Because something went wrong. So this is why it is a bit scary for the first time users. The installation went fine. We installed it and we messed it up on the password part. So no hard issues. We will just force turn this off, and then we will retry the installation with an install script this time, because that will make things very much easy for all of us. So this is the script that we will have to use if we want to set up Arch Linux using a script and not do everything by hand. So I am now deleting this entire virtual machine. We did manage to install it successfully, but then it was a trivial issue with some keyboard layout, I guess. But things worked correctly when we first went into that. So again, I am uh, selecting the Arch Linux ISO, and we are doing an Arch Linux install with the same parameters: 4096 MB RAM and 4 CPUs. Similar configuration, again UEFI, and that is it. And we are again now in the installer. I don't know why it went to that crash mode, because the installer was right there for it to boot from. But let's digress and then just use the script that is there. So that can be had with curl -l matmaul.github.io dash slash sorry, and archphi, and archphi, pipe it down to archphi. Then we have to launch archphi. Archphi is a script that makes it easy to install Arch Linux. So let's change our language. So it is English. Our keyboard layout will be, yes, this was the problem. It selected ANSI Dvorak the next time we booted. So that was not the correct keyboard layout, and I was typing something different and something else was going on there. So I am selecting US now, and editor is Vim. Disk partitions, we can go with the auto partitions because this is an installer script and makes it very easy. 20 gigs, it will erase everything. It is doing everything that we did uh, during the beginning part of the stream automatically, and everything has been done for us now. So we don't need to do anything else. We will go back and select partitions and install. So what is our boot device? Our boot device, let us just check again. Disk partitions, edit partitions. So what did it make? EFI system, Linux swap, and Linux file system. Just the things that we also had created back then. And okay, so VDA3 is our our system root device, and swap device is VDA2. And what happened? Am I doing something wrong? Boot device is, yes, VDA1, swap device is VDA2, and root device is VDA3. Home device is none. So I will select yes. I will format the devices with, yes, FAT32 for the EFI partition. We did that on our own. Swap for the swap partition, and ext4 for the Linux partition. We will next mount it. It mounted everything automatically, just like how we had done manually. So now we can edit the mirror list, but we can also install Arch directly. We will install Arch with the Linux kernel. If my Google Home would shut up, then we can install the firmware and we can go from here. Okay, now it is doing the installation again from the installation script, but we did not have to write any command by our hand. It is just a menu, next, 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 just like you would do it in any other operating system. So this is an easy way to get started with Arch, if you will. So it is also downloading the same things it downloaded the first time we did everything. Again, we are at the Linux stage. We are installing the Linux firmware again. And yeah, now the download is over, and we are just installing Arch to our hard disk, the virtual hard disk. And once that is done, let me take a look here. Almost done. It is generating the boot image that it will use to boot up from. Press any key to continue. We have to now configure Arch Linux. We have to set the computer name. It is fine, Arch Linux. We have to set the keyboard layout, and that would be US. The font is okay. The locale is en underscore in. So let me scroll down and I will select en underscore in. The time would be Asia and K for Kolkata, and hardware clock will be UTC, and root password will be a very secure 4 character password for root. You can already guess what it is. So I will generate the fstab file right now, just like we did that earlier. We can edit the file system table, but it looks very similar. Everything is done. We have to now select the bootloader, that is grub. Install grub. So grub is installed. EFI boot manager is also installed. It is now generating the grub configuration files. So grub install is done. EFI mode. So that is done. We will go back. Extras. Yes, please. Now we would have to uh, just get out of this thing. But we can install everything from right here, but I will not do that. I will just launch archdi. That, no, that is okay. Configure arch linux is done. Our installation is done. We can unmount and we can go back and we can now reboot. Let's see what happens. Yeah, we are at arch linux, not in the installer but at the actual arch linux system again. We were at. So again we got to this. Do we have internet? Yes, we have. So let me add user, two groups, wheel and Sudipto. Password, uh, my password I am not setting it, so but I am setting the password for Sudipto, so it will be another password. And then I have to do this vi sudo thing again. So pacman -s sudo. That this installation was quicker than the earlier one when we did everything by hand, but we reached the same point again. So editor editor is equals to vim and then vi sudo. We will go back to wheel and uncomment this line and save it and try to log in as Sudipto. But why don't we install OpenSSH again? Because that would be a nicer interface to work with. So systemctl enable now SSHD. Let me try connecting to it once again now that it is done. So IPA is, the internet address is 232. So SSH root at 232. Yes, root. Don't do this to me. Permission denied. Very good. So let's go to Vim again. etc ssh. What is happening with this sshd config? Authorized keys. Okay, so password. Use spam yes. Banner none. Then why is it happening to me? Let me set up the password to this. Can I log in again? But let us just set up the graphics to just get the stream over with. So whatever, we will now again go to this script. We will have to download it again, I guess. Yes, that would be matmaul.github.io slash archphi to archphi and launch it with archphi. I guess that is done. We cannot use it again, but we need the arch di script within that. So let me just search on how to get that script. Arch di script. Yep, arch di is available. So okay, we just needed to use arch di instead of archphi directly. So just launching arch di. Yep, what is it downloading? Yes. So updates, I have to install pacman contrib. Okay, I can install it. Press any key to continue. Install yay. Yay is very good. Arch user repository is another unique selling point because you almost have everything that you need in Arch user repositories. Unlike the Ubuntu repositories, you would have to add each repository by itself, but this is good. We can just do it. Yes, it is now installing. Yay. Installing Golang, another programming language. It is now building it. Does not matter, it will take time. This is an involved operating system, just to give ourselves some motivation. It is now building Yay from source. The installation is done. We are just adding more packages to our thing. So we are upgrading our system first if there are any upgrades, but we just installed it, so that will not be an issue. So we will go back and install our system right now. So console, we don't need. System kernel is there. Xorg, GPU information, we will have to install the X server, that is the display server. We can install some things from here, but that would be good for now. Yes. Okay, so let's go with that. That would be a 250 megabyte install. It is installing the Arch X server, that is the display server. Everything is in pieces in the Linux world. So fonts we don't need. Input drivers, it would not hurt to have some input drivers for mice and all. Fonts I don't need. Video drivers, open source, will work. Let's see QXL. If you have an NVIDIA or AMD graphics card, you would have to set this up again, but I am skipping over that right now. So desktop environment, what do we want? Let us uh, go with GNOME, but it is showing Plasma 5. So can we go Plasma 5? I think not. I would still go with GNOME. So GNOME is being installed. I don't need these things, so I guess we can go with GNOME. But it would take a lot of space, so I would go with XFCE or Plasma 5 for now. Okay, Plasma packages. Let us do that. Do we need everything? Okay. That will be a hefty download, because this is the part which will take a bit of time, because it is installing all the desktop icons and everything that goes with it, the pointers, the wallpapers and everything. So it will take a bit of time. Let me start some music to go while this is going, and I will be back. Let's see. So now that's done. Let me shut down Spotify right here and go back to the installer. And here we are again. Now we have to install the KDE applications. The we can skip this, I guess, and complements partition manager kd connect. uh, that would work. That will be a quick install. Yes, that is done. We'll go back and back. The display manager is sddm, nothing to do because it is enabled at boot. So let's go back and applications. We need a web browser. Firefox works. We can install Firefox. And for a terminal, let's see, the pacman GUI, we don't need that at right this point in time, but that would be nice to have. You can select everything from here, but just then go to config, and that is done. Let's shut down or reboot. Yeah, let's reboot. Yes. As you can see, we are now in the graphical environment, and I can just type in my password if it would not glitch out on me. So I am now in the graphical environment. This is it. We would now have to configure a few system settings, like let's change the excuse me, let's change the resolution. I would like it to be at least 1922 by 1080. uh, is that too much? I guess not. Yes, that is not too much, and that takes up my entire space. Okay, so we are now in. So we can go back to system settings, and we can see that we are running Arch Linux. You can go with any desktop environment. You can customize it however you want to do it, but yeah, this is Arch Linux. And if you have to go to a terminal, you would have to have console, but I guess that is not installed. So alt, yes, yes, yep. But yes, you now have everything at your perusal. So that was a successful installation of Arch Linux. I hope this helped if you are just getting started, but whatever, that was an installation. So I will now shut this thing down. If I can figure out how to, yes, we can go to just leave and shut down my computer. And I am shutting it down in 28 seconds. And that will shut down my virtual machine. So my guest is now not running. So Arch Linux is shut off. And if you would see that it only takes up very low disk space, like all of this would have fit in under 20 GB of space, whereas Windows needs at least 25 to 50 gigs to even go with the minimal configuration. So I guess that was it for this stream. So I have linked this archphi script to install Arch Linux and even archdi, and the Arch wiki is also available in the description. Again, this was a meme that if you do one push up every time you say, by the way, I use Arch, you will get those muscles and six packs. And yeah, that's it for this stream. Let me again just start some music and go back to my cave, if I can do that correctly again. Did I do that? No. Why is it not working? Because I am muted? No. Why is it not running?